going to be a soup day. And one of my favorite family soups is Italian wedding soup. Can you see this right here? That is escarole. This Italian wedding soup is not only one of my family favorites, it's reached out into my recent neighborhood where I am living. And so today I'm going to tell you a quick and easy way. It does take some time, so there's some preparation that you can do ahead of time. Like I did earlier, I took 2 chicken breasts and I did the boneless. If you want to do the bone, there's more flavor, but then you got to watch out for the little bones, especially if you're having little children around. That makes me a little nervous. So I have another way of making a very nice tasting chicken broth by using 2 chicken breasts. And what I did is I put it in my kettle here with 2 quarts of water, and I simmered it for about an hour and a half. And then when it was all done simmering, I ran it through a little strainer. So any of the particles that come out of the chicken breast, sometimes you get this like white foam. So you get rid of anything so your chicken broth is nice and clear. Then I also added, because I have a very large head of escarole, I added 1 more quart of chicken broth. And you can use any kind of chicken broth that is your favorite. This is simmering nice and warm. I'm going to just put it up. I think as you begin cooking, you kind of find different broths, whether they're in a can or a box, or I like what is called better than bouillon. It's like a paste. You might be able to find it in your local stores. I don't know. Anyways, use whatever you can. So we have a total of 3 quarts of chicken stock. And most of it is made right from the real chicken breast itself, fresh. So what happened after that, we had our 2 chicken breasts, and they were still very warm, so I waited till they cooled down. And as you can see here, I shredded the 2 chicken breasts. There's an awful lot of chicken right there that we're going to put in later on, so we can just set that aside. But for now, I like to make those little tiny little meatballs that you see floating around in Italian wedding soup. And although this doesn't look like a lot of ground meat, it is a half a pound of ground beef. And I am going to throw 1 egg in there. I'm going to put a little bit of black pepper. I am choosing not to put salt, because in my little meatballs, I like to put a good amount, again, of my Pecorino Romano grated cheese. I like to buy it in bulk at the at my local Italian food store. And then I'm going to add quite a bit of basil. And just crush it just to kind of reactivate it. It smells wonderful. I'll put some basil. I'm going to put it there because sometimes after I stir it, I kind of like to smell it and make sure I smell my basil. And I am putting oregano. If you don't like oregano, don't put it in. I like it. In fact, I know I'm going to need more basil because I like to have more of the basil smell. So, there we go. And just kind of mix it all together. Now you notice I did not use any breadcrumbs. That is totally optional. I like a little softer meatball, tiny little meatball for my soup. So we're going to make sure, put this up a notch, because we want that to be not a real full boil, but we want it to be boiling, because what we're going to do is we're going to make little tiny meatballs and just drop them in the soup. There we go. Oh, that smells wonderful. And you know what? I smell the basil. It's delicious. I might just add a little bit more, believe it or not. And that's why I didn't salt it. There's your salt. Another little scoop of Parmesan, or not Parmesan. When I say Parmesan, that's like a shortcut, but it's really Pecorino Romano. Remember that. I love Pecorino Romano. I grew up with it. Oh, that's a nice texture. Look at that. Okay, there. Oh. Now we're gonna walk over here. You can see my stock, chicken stock is boiling profusely. And what I'm gonna do, yes, you have to get your hands in, and honestly, you don't have to make little tiny meatballs. I just break off, look, little section at a time. You can take a gob of it and just kind of make little. My grandmother, what I can remember when I was a little girl, I thought she literally went like this. But I think she took a little time in her hands. And knowing my grandma, she might have taken more time than what I'm doing. You don't have to have little tiny meatballs, because really, once this all cooks together, it's going to be in its own little shape. So now we will cover that and keep it simmering. Fill that with some ice cold water. And here's my, look at that. Look at the size of this. I don't know if you can see that. That's a mighty big piece of escarole. And I'm going to just I like to cut the bottom off before I put it in my water. So we just cut the bottom off and place it in our big bowl. Not do that. Okay, our meatballs have really been cooking there, and they're going to continue to cook while we get ready. And I'm just going to show you how I like to slice up my escarole. I've got my bowl here to put it in, and my little trusty scraper there. And what I do, again, because of the soil, and depends where you get it, sometimes there's a lot of black. We used to buy right from a farm, and of course, we had to really wash it one piece at a time. Usually when you buy it in the store, if you soak it in this bowl of water and just take it and look, shake out the water as much as possible. We're going to start cutting it. I'll show you how I like to cut it. I just get a bunch of them together and I cut them in half. And for Italian wedding soup, I like to cut them as thinly as possible. That big one's got to get back there. So just make tiny little cuts like that. See? Just tiny little cuts. It's worth it in the long run. It takes time, not your fingers, and then just scoop it up. Always have a bowl where you can put it in. Then we're going to come right back here and we're going to do it all over again. And we're getting towards the bottom of our big head of escarole. And what I have done is I have rinsed them under the water one by one, the big ones, because you, again, want to make sure there's no bugs or sand in there, because usually there's a lot of sand. And we'll just take, this is the end part. This is usually pretty clean, but you still want to look through it because we don't want any dirt or sand in there. There we go. Try to drain out all the water as much as possible. Now with this, we'll just cut the whole heart of the escarole right down the center, make little slits, little slices. There. And of course, it looks like way too much. And honestly, every time I make it, that's what I think. Look at that big bowl. And now we're going to bring it over here. We've got our meatballs in the chicken stock. You could see it's still simmering. I just brought it up on high because now little by little we are going to throw in our escarole. That cools it right on down. And at the same time, we're going to put our chicken that we had shredded. That's an awful, awful lot of chicken shredded. You can choose to put it all in, and you can choose to leave some for chicken salad you can make for tomorrow's lunch. Look at that. Look at how beautiful green your escarole is. This is a very nutritious soup. A lot of children may not like the greens. My family grew up on them. They enjoyed it. If you want, you don't have to put in that many of the greens. It really depends on your family's liking. We're going to let that come to a boil. And then that's all you have to do is simmer it as long as you want. Some people really like their greens well done. I don't like them so much when you cook them so that the color becomes out of them. I still like to see a little green in my greens. However, the longer you cook it, remember, it's just going to go into the soup and you're still going to get your delicious tasting soup with all the vitamins and minerals because you're going to be eating the broth. And we're going to let this simmer now for a good 5 minutes, 7 minutes, 10, however long you have time for. All right, our Italian wedding soup has been simmering for about 12 minutes to be exact. And it's a nice color. The greens, look at that. And look at how that chicken is threaded. It's just kind of laced right through. This is a perfect meal for anybody, anytime, on a nice cold wintry day if you have them wherever you live. We do, and of course we have to sprinkle the top with our Pecorino Romano. And some people don't like to cook with a lot of salt. I didn't add salt to this, but it'd probably be a good idea to throw some salt in the kettle because we didn't salt the meat. I didn't add any salt to my chicken broth when I was making it. So I would say throw some in there and enjoy tasting your Italian wedding soup. Delicious. The meatballs are nice and soft and flavorful. Enjoy.